I guess that's all right. The main focus really is for me to try to understand, just so you have some background, that we ran a February Google Ads search campaign for the state of Colorado, um, and I optimized that campaign for conversions of form fill-outs. And what
Okay.
I realized in the legal industry is that that doesn't really work, because for some reason I think people don't want to fill out forms when they're dealing with lawyers. I think
Yeah,
they
yeah.
want to talk to them, they want to call them, and so that was just kind of my learning curve. This is my
Mhm.
first. I've only been in the legal industry for 6 months, and this is my first Google ad campaign ever for lawyers too. So just kind of there's a
Gotcha.
learning curve there. But what was
Mhm.
happening from a call tracking perspective is that um, pretty much nobody called the unique phone numbers that we had created. But then when they went back and they looked at how many new phone calls the Colorado office had last month, they doubled,
Mhm.
if not tripled. So we kind of know in an indirect way that those Google ads did increase those phone calls, but we weren't able to track
Mhm.
them, because I guess what people were doing was is they would click on the ad, not call the unique phone number that I created for the ad, and then they'd bounce off, go elsewhere on the website, and then they were just calling the main uh, headquarter phone number. So that was
Gotcha.
where
Okay.
my tracking problems became an issue, because it was like, oh, you say the Colorado office is getting twice the amount of calls, and you guys didn't do anything different last month but have Google Ads, but I couldn't
Mhm.
directly point to as, oh, this person called from this ad.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And then
Yeah, so
last
oh, go
thing
ahead.
real quick would just be the fact that, I optimize the campaigns for form fills. And so I'd
Mhm.
love to get an insight into kind of, readjusting that for phone numbers. And so,
Yeah.
right now, the way that the campaigns are set up or they're running today is they're optimized for enhanced CPC,
Mhm.
where I'm only giving it like a $6, click bid or whatever. So the campaign is obviously getting more clicks now, and it's lower cost per click, because it's no longer optimized for conversion of form fills. It's just optimized for website traffic with enhanced CPC. So I kind of want to
Oh,
know.
perfect.
I want to know if I'm taking the right approach now, or if I should go back, or if there's a way to optimize for phone calls. I'm just trying to figure out, obviously,
Mhm.
the best way for me to prove to them that people are calling based upon the Google ads, and then that will
Yeah.
uh, help me out, because then I'll have kind of a way to say, okay, I generated you these many leads.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and we can definitely help you out in the call attribution aspect. We are primarily just a call tracking software. We do have form submissions as like a feature that we could track as well. It's not going to be as granular as we can track calls with, but it does kind of allow you to kind of get insight into both calls versus form fillouts. But yeah, so the way that we do get or that we kind of help you understand where the calls are coming from is by, especially to track website traffic, would be the technology called dynamic number insertion. So basically, it's a little snippet of code that you would want to add on each client's website. Each client would have their own unique code to be added to the back end of their site, but basically that code is going to be what number one reads kind of the web session of where that visitor came from, and then we'll assign them a tracking number. And then basically, whenever they call, we'll be able to say, hey, this visitor called this tracking number, this call or this tracking number is associated with Google Paid or Google Organic, etc. So there's different ways of how we can track, which kind of allows me to dive a little deeper into the two different types. So the first type is going to be called source level tracking. So think of source tracking as just the one tracking phone number to marketing source relationship. So in your case, if you are wanting to track, different channels of marketing that are driving traffic to that client's website, you would do a track like one specific tracking number for Google Paid, one unique tracking number for Google Organic. If you're doing social media, you'd have one tracking number for like Facebook, et cetera. Basically, each campaign or each channel is going to have their own unique tracking phone number assigned to it. So that way, the visitor comes from Google Paid search, they click on an ad, go to the website, they'll see that Google Paid tracking number show up. When they call, we'll be able to attribute that call to Google Paid since they called that Google Paid configured tracking number. Same thing if they're coming from Google Organic or any other source. We're basically just going to dynamically swap the number on the site that matches from the source that drove them to the site, all using that JavaScript code.
So pretty much,
Um,
if they land on the website and then they bounce off the landing page and they go somewhere else on the website and they call that main phone number, they'll see
mhm.
that dynamic phone number the entire time, no matter where they go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As long as that snippet of code is added on every page of the website, if they get on a landing page and then let's say they click around on the website, they're still going to see that tracking number is basically going to follow them around wherever they go. So whenever they do call, we're still going to attribute that call to whatever source that drove them to the site.
Okay, cool. What if they,
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, they go to the website through the Google ad and then they
Mm-hmm.
decide to not make a decision that day and they log on to the website later on? Would they still
Mm-hmm.
be getting that same dynamic phone number later on if they left the website and
Yeah.
came back for the day?
Yeah, yeah. So they will. So basically, this is actually a great question. That kind of goes into like the next different, the other type of tracking feature that we offer. So with
Okay.
source tracking, it's going to be just a first touch attribution model. So basically, let's say if they come from Google Pay the first time they get to the website, and then they leave the website without calling that tracking number, if they come back again a week later, say direct, they're still going to see that same Google Pay tracking number that was assigned to them. The first time they got to the website, and then when they call, we're still going to attribute that phone call to Google Paid, even though they're on the website a second time from a different source. If you want to get the multi-touch attribution where you're actually getting insight into, if they left the website 3 different times and then came back and then called, if you want to get the insight as to their entire journey of where they came from the first time, the second time, and the third time, you'd want to use this keyword or what we like to call visitor level tracking feature. So instead of having one tracking number per marketing source to differentiate where which call came from, what this is actually a pool of phone numbers that's designed to basically cycle or like kind of rotate throughout the client's website. So basically the way that it works is each visitor who's on the site concurrently is going to be assigned a unique number from that pool. So let's say me and you are on that client site concurrently. I'd be saying, let's say, this 4597 number, and then you'd be assigned, let's say, this 1666 number. Once one of us makes the phone call to that number assigned to us, CallRail is then going to attribute that call to the entire web session of that specific visitor. We're actually cooking that user's browser once they get to the website, and then we're also pulling the Google Click ID once they actually place that phone call. So with this, you actually get insight into whichever marketing source drove that visitor to the site. You're going to get, say if they're coming from Google Paid Search, we're actually able to attribute those phone calls down to the PPC keyword level. So whatever keywords that you're bidding on for that client in Google Ads, if any of those keywords are used in their search that drove them to the website, we're going to be able to show you which keywords that they used. We'll be able to show you the browser type that they were on, the device type that they were using, the landing page URL, referral page URL, and active page URL. So you're getting much more granular data with this type of tracking. Also with this, you can actually push Google paid phone calls over to your Google Ads account as conversions as well. And then also you get the multi-channel attribution with this type of tracking. So let's say they came from Google paid search one day, they click around on the website, leave the website without calling, and then they come back from Google Organic, this let's say a week later. Once they call the tracking number assigned to them, we're still going to attribute that phone call as Google paid in the dashboard right here, but you have access to this timeline. So basically, if you click on the timeline, this is going to be where you get the multi-touch attribution. So it'll actually show you on this day and time, they came from Google Paid. That was the source that drove them to the site. They left the website at this time. They came back, let's say a week later, placed a phone call through Google Organic. So you get that insight into the entire journey. If they get to the website first through a different source and then come back like a week later and call, but a different source drove them, you're going to get that entire journey on what basically drove that entire phone call from their previous web sessions.
Okay, great. So I guess with this option, I'm able to track definitely more granular and with keywords, and I wouldn't be able to do that with the other option, correct?
Yeah, with source tracking, that's just the generic. We're basically just pulling the marketing source of what drove that phone call and then like the caller ID information and stuff like that.
Okay.
So you don't unfortunately get all the granular information like the PPC keywords, the landing page URL, and all that good stuff. That's only available to you with this visitor level tracking.
Okay.
So you are using a pool of numbers, but also I do want to point out, because some people think that this feature is more expensive because it requires more numbers. But let's say if you're doing, let's say 5 different marketing sources that are driving traffic to your client's website, a pool of 4 numbers to get that granular data is capable of tracking every single marketing source that's driving traffic to your website. So regardless if they're coming from Google Paid, Google Organic, Facebook, Yelp, etc., you can use one pool of numbers and have it configured to basically track all types of visitors. Whereas if you're using source tracking, you would have to do a unique phone number per marketing source that you're wanting to track. So really, when it comes down to like the amount of numbers that you would need in the pool is going to be determined by the amount of visitors that website is getting during its peak hours. And then we also take into account the session duration as well on average.
Okay.
So if the website's not getting that much traffic, let's say they're only getting about, let's say,
well, I was going to stop
15 to 20.
Let me stop.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
The websites today, it's probably getting, I'd say it's getting upwards of 300 visitors a day now.
A day, okay. Do you have that broken down to where you know how many visitors per hour, like during the peak hours of the website where they're getting visitors? Do you know how many users are on the site during their peak hours?
Yeah, I'd probably say like 150 of those visitors are happening from like, normal business hours, probably from like 9 to, I'd probably say like 9 to 3.
Gotcha. So yeah, when we're trying to figure out the pool size, we're actually, I know this can be found within Google Analytics as well under Audience Overview, but we're taking the amount of visitors that the website had in its peak hour, and you can do this over the span of like a year, 6 months, however you want to do it. But basically, in Google Analytics, you'll see if you have an Audience Overview, and then if you choose the hourly selection, there's going to be a line graph, and then if you like hover over the peaks on that line graph, it'll actually show you how many visitors that site had in its peak hour. That's going to be the amount of visitors that we would need to be able to see however many numbers that you would need per pool. And the reason why is because you want to make sure that each visitor is going to be assigned their own phone number from that pool when they're on the website at the same time. Because let's say there's 3 visitors who are on the site at the same time and they're all 3 seeing the same tracking number that's assigned to them, there's going to be a misattribution of data because CallRail's just not going to know which web session to attribute that call to whenever they do call. So you want to make sure that there's enough numbers in that pool so that way each visitor who's on the site, especially during the peak hours, can be assigned their own phone number from that pool. But yeah, so if you take the amount of visitors that the website had in its peak hour, and then we also take into account the average session duration. So even if, let's say, during the peak hour that the website got, let's say, 75 visitors in that peak, and then let's say
you go to audiences in Google Analytics, and then where?
Yeah, so it's audience and then overview. Okay. And then you'll see like a line graph, and it should be on like, I think it's going to be already selected on daily. If you choose hourly instead, right. And then I would just kind of spread the date range out like over like the span of a month to like 6 months or a year or anything like that. Many numbers that would be needed within that pool. And that's on a per website basis as well. So let's say if you've got like 5 clients, you would just want to go in and get that data for each client. So that way you can make sure that each one has enough numbers in each pool. But yeah, you are able to get that granular data, the PPC keywords, like I was saying. And then, like I said, but kind of the point that I was trying to make before was like, let's say if you had like 10 different marketing sources driving traffic to your client's website, that means that you would have to have right off the bat 10 different tracking numbers, 1 per each source. Whereas one pool of numbers is going to be capable of tracking all visitors. So meaning like on that one website that we just looked at, let's say if the peak hour, let's say it was like 20 to 25 visitors, you'd be fine with just the minimum pool size of 4 numbers that's able to track everything that's being driven to the site. So sometimes you can actually save money in terms of the amount of numbers that would be needed just because, you're kind of using the minimal amount of numbers per pool that's capable of tracking way more than like what source tracking could do. Mm-hmm. That is kind of something
So in that case, are all 21 users getting 4 different numbers, or how are those numbers split up between 21 people?
Yeah, so we're taking into account the average session duration as well. So basically, like say if there was 21 visitors that website had in its peak hour, you wouldn't need 21 numbers in the pool because basically we're taking the average session duration into account because once a visitor gets to the site, they click on it, they're assigned that one number. When they leave the site, that number is going to be basically redistributed to the next visitor who gets to the site. And then once they get to the site, we cookie their browser and so forth. So basically, we're taking into account the average session duration, knowing that visitors aren't going to be staying on the site for an entire hour. They're going to be leaving after normally a few minutes. So we just want to make sure that there's enough numbers so that way each visitor who's on the site concurrently will have their own unique numbers assigned to them. And then once they leave, we're basically going to redistribute that number back into the pool. And then the next time a visitor gets to the site, it's going to be assigned to that new visitor and so forth. So yeah, it's we have a little bit of a kind of like a math equation that we kind of use to figure out however many numbers that would be needed. We can always dive into that if you were to sign up. We can kind of dive in on a client by client basis to figure out how many numbers each pool would need for each client.
Okay, so it doesn't necessarily mean that 4 numbers would be assigned to 5 people at a time. It could be whatever your algorithm decides, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Perfect. But yeah, do you have any other questions just about the 2 different types of tracking?
No, it sounds like the second option is a much better option, though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, anyone who's going to be doing, especially with PPC advertising or pay-per-click with Google ads or Bing ads or anything like that, most people like to get more granular because we are able to pull the PPC keywords. Unfortunately, with organic search, since all the search engines actually encrypt those keywords or organic keywords, we're not able to pull those because basically Google wants you to actually bid or pay for those keywords within your PPC ads. So for any kind of organic keywords, unfortunately, we're not able to pull that, but that's going to be kind of uniform across the entire industry. No other provider is really going to be able to pull organic keyword data. But yeah, if you are doing the PPC for your clients, it's definitely, I wouldn't say it's a no-brainer, but it's definitely, most marketers do like to get the most value and the most data as possible. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. And then this is actually a look at the call activity dashboard. So this is going to be where all the phone calls live within your entire CallRail account. I want to point out, this is actually an example of an agency styled account. So basically what this is, Belmont Brothers is considered the marketing agency. And then all of these are different companies or client sub accounts. So Trimble and Sons, Lone Star, Lodestar, Dallas Neon Works, DFW Sporting Goods. These are all clients of that Belmont Brothers marketing agency. Each client has their own sub account with their own tracking numbers, their own integration set up, their own snippet of code to be installed. So it kind of you're able to kind of manage everything on a client by client basis within the sub account instead of having all the data kind of mixed in.
Okay.
And then, like I said, each sub account is going to have its own call tracking data as well within them. So I wanted to point that out. But basically, the data that we're going to be pulling is going to be the tracking number that was called, the source of the phone call, the timestamp, the duration, caller ID information, and then you have the PPC keywords show up right here as well. You can also add other fields like campaign, landing page URL, device type, and then you can also add values to phone calls. So let's say someone got off the phone and let's say they made a sale for $500. They could go into the note field and then type in $500 for the value and then click enter, and then that $500 is going to basically appear for the value of that phone call if you have that value field selected. And then you can also tag phone calls, so you can tag them existing customer, conversion, new opportunity, etc. You can create custom tags for whatever you'd like. And then you can also qualify phone calls as good or bad phone call leads. This actually goes hand in hand with our machine learning, our artificial intelligence features that we have. So one of these would be call recording. So basically you have the ability to record all phone calls within the, for every single tracking number. So that way every single phone call that's coming in will be recorded for training purposes or quality assurance or anything like that. And then you also have the ability to transcribe those phone calls from recording into text. So you can actually go in and read the conversations as opposed to having to go in and listen to them. And then these little boxed out words right here, this is our call highlights feature. So basically this is taking the artificial intelligence to where CallRail's system is actually picking up on certain words or keywords that are frequently said throughout various conversations. Once we pick up on those words, we're actually going to highlight them for you. And then you can use these highlights, number one, to either, bid on certain keywords within Google ads, you know, if they're being frequently said throughout the phone conversations, or you can use them to actually automatically score phone calls as good or bad phone call leads. So you can actually have it to where if any of these keywords are said throughout a conversation, I want that call to automatically be scored as a good lead. And then CallRail is also smart enough to differentiate who the caller is versus who's the agent who's handling that phone call. So you can actually set a criteria to where, well, if only the caller says these certain keywords, then we want the call to be tagged this way, or we want the call to be scored as a good lead or anything like that. And then you can do the same thing for like the agent who's handling the phone call. If they say to these keywords, we can flag it as a successful sales call or anything like that. So it's kind of a way that you can use the machine learning algorithms to basically kind of automate the whole lead scoring process for these phone calls that are coming in for each client.
Okay, cool. I like that keyword thing with the machine learning.
Yeah.
That's it.
So the only added on cost for any of that would be the call transcription. We do use a third-party software that basically transcribes the calls for us. So that's either going to be 2 or 2.5 cents per minute, depending on which plan that you're on. But if you have the call transcription feature enabled, then the call highlights, the tagging, the automation part of it is all included.
Okay, great.
Perfect. Any questions on the dashboard?
Not really.
Okay. The next section that I want to show you would be the reporting section. So CallRail has off-the-shelf reporting as a feature that's just included in all of our plans. So instead of you having to basically manually create each report for your clients, we're going to have these reports already made for you just from the calls or the call volume that's coming into each tracking number. So this is actually an example of the call attribution report. So this can be broken down by source. So we're actually showing you which sources are driving the most phone calls to your clients. You can also break it down by keywords as well. So we're actually showing you whatever keywords that you're bidding on, let's say with Google Ads, we'll show you which keywords are actually performing the best in terms of driving traffic to your client sites, and then those visitors actually picking up the phone and calling. You can also have the report done by campaign, by referring page, or landing page as well. And then we also have some other behavior reports as well. So we have that call highlights report. That was just that feature that CallRail is basically picking up on certain keywords that are being frequently said throughout those conversations. Then we're actually going to show you the amount of phone calls that those keywords are actually used, and you can actually go in here and click on that number for total calls, and then we'll pull all those phone calls where those keywords are actually said with the call recordings included as well.
Okay.
And then some of the other behavior reports would be calls by day and time. That's just breaking down which time of day that the clients are receiving the most phone calls and the time of day that they're not receiving as many phone calls. That kind of gives the client a little more insight into what their busier hours are versus their slower hours, so they can kind of staff up or staff down accordingly. And then we also have a missed calls report. This is basically if the client is missing any phone calls, this is just showing you what time of day most of those phone calls are going missed. And you have the same thing as well, to where you can actually go in and click on the specific missed calls during that hour, and then we'll actually have it for you with the call recording included if they were to leave a voicemail or anything like that.
Okay.
Cool. Also, I want to point out you have this filter section right up here as well. This actually allows you to kind of customize the reports based off this criteria that you set within that filter. The criteria can be set by date range, by tracking number, source, keywords, device type, etc. And then basically by whatever criteria you have set within here, you can have that report automatically generated for you. And then you can also have these reports sent out to your clients on a weekly or monthly occurrence. So that way they're getting insight into the calls that you're driving them and which sources are driving those phones for them.
Okay.
Perfect. Any questions on the reporting side?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, and then the last section that I wanted to show you would be the features and integrations page. So this is going to be where you'd go to set up any integrations, set up any features or anything like that. It's also going to be where you'd go to find that snippet of code that would need to be added on the back end of that client's website.
Okay.
This code can be added in various ways. If the client has a developer, they can basically add the script manually on each page before the body end tag. Or the code can be added through Google Tag Manager as well. And then lastly, we do have a WordPress plugin. So it's essentially just a WordPress integration. They would just download the CallRail plugin in their WordPress account and then add the WordPress plugin key right down here. And then WordPress will basically install that plugin and basically install that script on each page for the client or for you.
Okay. Sounds like that's the easiest option if I have WordPress.
Yeah. I would say to the plugin, if you don't want to add a plugin to that website, Google Tag Manager is also a pretty easy route to go as well. That process usually takes around like 2 to 3 minutes. You just basically add or copy and paste the JavaScript into Google Tag Manager, and then just make sure it's published on each page, and then you're good to go.
Okay.
And then we have the direct integration with Google Ads. Basically, this works by, you have to be using the visitor level tracking feature in order to utilize this integration. But anytime a visitor comes from Google paid search, gets to the website, and then calls a tracking number from that pool, CallRail is going to push that phone call over to Google Ads as a conversion. And then with Google Analytics, basically you're just able to view calls as goals in the Google Analytics account. You would just set up a phone call or a custom phone call goal in Google Analytics. And then anytime a call is made to a CallRail tracking number on the website, CallRail is going to push that phone call over to that goal in Analytics as an event.
Okay. Do you know if in Google Ads, and I know this is a Google Ads question, so you may or may not know, if I did enhanced CPC and I've already done, well, that's what it currently is, and I did conversions of form fills, is there an option for phone calls like as a optimization, or not? There isn't.
I'm not sure. I know just off the bat, like with the CallRail integration, you don't even need to set up conversions for phone calls. Basically, CallRail is going to automatically push that data over as conversion. So there's the only thing that you really need to do within your Google Ads account for that client is just add the like a tracking template to be added to the URL, so that CallRail can pull the PPC keywords from those phone calls and display them to you within the dashboard. As far as setting up like a conversion set for like just phone calls, I know you don't need to do that to utilize the CallRail integration, because like I said, we're just going to automatically push that data over as conversions to Google Ads, and it'll show up as phone call automatically. But if you weren't using a tracking like a CallRail provider that doesn't have a direct integration with Google Ads, then you might need to do that. I'm not exactly sure. I know Google also offers like those forwarding numbers that kind of just works specifically for Google PPC. I'm not sure if you would have to have like a call conversion enabled within Google Ads to be able to track that stuff as well. But I know with our stuff, it's just automatic. It's just going to automatically show up in Google Ads as a phone call conversion.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just didn't know if there was an option, because maybe that might adjust the bidding price, but I can look into that later.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, we also have direct integrations with like Facebook. Basically, with the Facebook integration, we're essentially just pushing the Facebook phone calls over to the Facebook ad account as like offline conversions. So you would basically create an offline event set for a phone call in that Facebook ad account, and like I said, we're just pushing that phone call over to that offline event set as an offline conversion. You'll be able to use that call data to also create new target audiences within the Facebook ad account as well. That's a pretty popular integration that we offer. And then we also have the mobile click-to-call integration as well, to where if you're doing mobile-only call extensions for your clients, normally for all call extensions, that's going to be a source tracking number that you would use. So instead of using a number from that pool to basically put in that call extension, that would actually cause misattribution of data, because the pool of numbers is only going to be tracking website traffic. You can't use that type of tracking anywhere else aside from the client's website. So for those call extensions, if you just want to put a tracking number in that call extension, so that way you can see how many calls that were made directly from the ad without visitors actually being redirected to the website, we have that feature as well. With the mobile click-to-call integration, what this is for only, it's for mobile-only call extensions, to where these tracking numbers are only going to be, or these ad extensions are only visible to visitors from mobile devices. So you can actually put a source tracking number within that call extension, and then with that, we're actually able to attribute those PPC keywords from those calls if it's configured properly. You won't be able to push the phone calls over to Google Ads as conversions, but we are still able to pull the PPC keywords. It's something that has to do with them being on the mobile device, to where we can actually still capture their PPC keywords. So that's also another feature that we have that's pretty popular as well if you are doing call extensions for your clients. And then we also have direct integrations with like Salesforce and then HubSpot CRM as well, and some other marketing automation softwares or some other bidding platforms like Marin, Acquisio, Marketo, and then some like A/B testing platforms like Unbounce and so forth.
Okay, cool.
Perfect. Let's see here. You can also add as many users to your account as you'd like.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to show all this stuff, and I'm excited to start implementing it.
Yeah, sure thing, Benjamin. Yeah, I'm glad we're able to connect.